Hello, everyone. Today I'm sitting down to talk about the Big Five in Eurovision, this contest that's being held in May of 2021, the Song Contest held in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I have already covered all of the songs that will be competing in the semifinals. There are two semifinals. If you're not familiar with Eurovision, I explained a little bit in those two videos, but also other videos and other resources will better explain it. So I would look there. But most of the countries have to compete in those semifinals, but a special select few countries do not. They get a special golden ticket to the grand final, and those are the big five countries. Every single year, these five countries get an automatic pass to the final. You probably, if you've watched my channel, know how I feel about this. I think that it is an outdated, bygone era sort of tradition that I think should be done away with. I think it stifles the competition a little bit. It makes those other countries have to work harder than they do. And I think that it also makes some of these big five countries not try as hard and put on as interesting of a show. And I just don't think still don't think it's that fair. And usually the big five countries tend to bring songs that I'm not really as excited about. I mean, it depends, but there are some countries that are a little stronger than others. But these big five countries, you might ask, what are they? They're the ones, the big kingpins of Europe: Germany, Italy, Spain, France, and the United Kingdom. These five countries are sort of like the original, some of the most original countries to participate in Eurovision, and they also provide the most financial support for the contest. So there's a little bit of background for that. Why do they get this pass every year? They didn't want to see a grand final any year where none of those countries were participating or one of them wasn't. So they all had to get that pass. In addition to talking about the songs that are competing representing those countries, I am also going to be talking about the one fair, and I do believe just, automatic qualifier, which varies from year to year. The winner of the country and the winner from the previous song contest automatically gets a pass to the final. So in 2019, which was the last contest we had, thanks to 2020 when it was canceled, the Netherlands was the winner with Duncan Lawrence Arcade. That means that the contest is being held in the Netherlands, and it also means that the Netherlands gets to go right to the final along with the big five countries. So I will also be talking about Dutch entry, and so let's get into it. This video won't be quite as long, thankfully. Those other two semifinal videos, which I will link in the description if you are interested, a little bit lengthier because there were like 17 songs each to talk about. We only have 6, so maybe I can get a little bit more in depth. I'm going to be going through these countries in alphabetical order. However, I will do the Netherlands last. So here we go. First is France. Barbara Pravi is singing her song Voila for France this year. Now, I think this song and the image that goes along with the performance, I've frequently seen her donning a very French and Parisian beret with this very curled hair, which is a very stylistic thing that does make me think of France. I know it's a bit typecasty, it's a bit stereotypical, but I will be honest, she's definitely kind of imbibing that stereotype just with everything about this performance. The song is in French, so it's interesting in that the France usually does keep it in their own language, which I appreciate. And this is a huge upgrade from what they were sending in 2020 with Tom Leb, with The Best in Me, which was a very sort of watered down, generic power ballad, very Disney sounding. This song has a lot more character to it, a lot more nuance and depth. Roughly translated into English, the lyrics say, "Listen to me the half singer, talk about me. To your loves, to your friends, tell them about this black-eyed girl and her crazy dream. What I want is to write stories that reach you. That is all. Here it is, this is who I am," in the chorus. "Here I am, even if exposed, I'm afraid. Yes, here I am in the noise and in the silence. Look at me, or at least what's left of me. Look at me before I hate myself. What to tell you that another's lips won't tell you. It's not much, but it's all that I have that I put out there. That is all. Here it is, this is who I am." Barbara talks about how the lyrics for this song are basically about herself, though they could be so broad and applied to anyone who feels like they have silenced themselves for quite some time. She's basically owning her own voice and her own destiny, saying, "I'm no longer going to hide in the shadows. I'm not going to chain myself back, letting my insecurities and doubts in my head get in my way." I want to be a singer in her case, and I am going to sing. All of the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all going to be out there. I'm going to take ownership of it. Without understanding the lyrics, we get a performance from her that is at once very demure at the beginning and very restrained to something quite manic. The movements and the way she kind of allows the song to take over her body in the performance of it shows you that she is feeling it to the fullest extent. She's very animated in this performance, and that's what really sells it. I mean, especially with the close camera angles, myriad of emotions that are going through her head as she is at the end sort of somewhat shouting the lyrics at us. Like I said, it becomes a lot punkier as we progress through the melody, because at the beginning it's this very simple piano instrumental that just glides us into a rolling melody that really builds up steam. I will say this song took a while to grow on me. It's an unconventional melody. It's one that's not really meant to be instantly recognizable. It is one that is meant to be very repetitive and to kind of get a emotional outburst out there. I think it serves its purpose. However, there is an element of the drama and the piano and the balladry that leaves me wanting a little bit more sonically. You know me, I'm just always, when I see, particularly a female songwriter writing from the heart, singing from the heart, I want the melodies to just really grab me, and they unfortunately don't on this track. But, it gives me a lot of old school, old fashioned, it's got the elements of a very seasoned performer. I don't want to bring up very tropey sort of things, but it does make me think of Emily. Makes me think of, La Vie en Rose. I mean, it's definitely channeling that, Edith Piaf like direction, which hey, I think it's great that she's channeling that. She's still bringing it into her own spin. It's not nearly as jazzy. There isn't so much of a jazz inflection on her voice. It's much crisper, but it's a marvelous voice. I think that it can break a lot in the performance, but I think when her voice does break, it's owing to the emotion. So I don't really think it draws. The one benefit from having a melody that isn't so vocally over the top and dynamic is that if your voice does shake, if your voice breaks, if there's some pitch issues, it kind of works, because I feel like the uncanny melody is suited for moments of breakdown in her voice. And I'm not saying that she is not a wonderful singer. I'm just saying that this song lends well and fits well with her sort of style of approach to the song. So I think it'll be very emotional on stage. And I think it is probably one of the better songs we're getting from the big five countries this year. I would definitely love to see this song finish in the top 10. But, it does kind of become forgettable in my mind with other songs that have stronger melodies or a little flashier. Because, Switzerland is bringing the really powerful power ballad. And in comparison, I feel like this song falls flat. It's very different stylistically, yet both very, very introspective and emotional. So it's going to be interesting to see, along with Bulgaria, these three songs, how they compete against each other. Okay, so next we have Italy. The other strong entry we have from the Big Five. We have Måneskin, the band. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Please forgive me. Zitti I Bioni. I, again, don't know how I'm pronouncing that. The other hard rock song on this contest. Hard rock fans will be glad to see a return to form for this genre, which we didn't really see much of in the last two contests. There's usually at least one or two songs that go in that direction. They don't know, it's all in Italian, by the way. They don't know what I'm talking about. You are dirty, between with mud. Yellow cigar between the fingers. Me with the cigar while walking. I'm sorry, but I believe so much that I can take this leap. And even if the road is uphill, that's why I am training now. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Off the actors, you better touch your balls. You better be quiet and good. I believe Zitti I Bioni means quiet and good when translated into English. People here are weird like drug dealers. Too many nights I was locked out. I like the refrain part towards the end of the song where it says, I'm out of my mind but different from them, and you're out of your mind but different from them. We are all out of our minds but different from them. Emphasizing we're a little crazy, but it does make us unique. So it's a flip on that. Similarly to Voila, this is again about an individual expression of wanting to own and be proud of who you are, celebrating the quirks, paving the way. It's very psychedelic in its presentation. I love the playing with gender and the cross dressing. I mean, I'm not entirely sure with the band of Måneskin and the lead singer, what orientation anyone is. I'm not even that interested in like understanding that. I just view it as art. And I do think that there's definitely a lot of queer energy embroiled in this song, which gives it such a punk atmosphere. But I don't necessarily, I have no idea. My gaydar is not really not sure what to do with this song. They did have to clean up the lyrics a little bit because it was very explicit when it was competing for the Italian Sanremo competition. So for Eurovision, they've had to change a few things. Instead of "you better touch your nuts," "you better not make any more mistakes." I was reading the like translated lyrics, and I was like, wow, I don't know if they could get away with singing that in a Eurovision song. So reading that they have had to change that makes sense. And they had to clean up the F bomb at one point in the lyrics. They don't know what they're talking about instead of they don't know what the F they're talking about. It's not my style of music, but I find myself similarly to Blind Channel's song Dark Side for Finland. The more I listen to it, the more I become accustomed to the melody. I get really behind it. I did say in my Finland, talking about the song for Finland, that I felt like the verses were stronger in sonic form for Blind Channel's song. However, the chorus was not as strong. And then I feel like it's a bit reverse for Zitsi Ipjoni. I feel like it's a strong chorus that really grabs you and it reaches its crescendo. But then I feel like the rap sung really high tempo verses get, especially if you don't understand the language, start to feel just a little too cacophonous. But at the same time, I'm not knocking any points for that. That's a stylistic choice that I do think suits the song well. It's all about hitting you over the head with that melody in the chorus, and it yeah, I between the two songs, it's hard for me to say which of them is my favorite because, like I said, there's elements of both of these songs that I like, despite it being normally a genre of music that's this contest I'm usually not a fan of. It usually is like very low in my rankings, but I place them both in the middle. I mean, I'm seeing very enthusiastic to lukewarm response from people about this song. I'm not seeing anyone not like it. I believe that Italy has been in the bookies' top 5 odds for quite some time to win, though I have a feeling it's probably pretty low up there, considering some of the other songs that are high up in the top 5 that I haven't checked at the moment, but that was several weeks ago. Italy has been high for people's betting odds. So Italy has been really coming with fire lately. I mean, Soldi deserved to win. Like, let's be real. I mean, Duncan deserved it, but if we had to give it to someone else, it would have been to Italy with Mahmoud Soldi. So, not this song isn't quite as strong for me as that, but Italy is definitely like really showing that every year they're going to bring something. It's a big improvement over Fai Rumore, which is from last year's entry as well. I wasn't so hot on that song. It was just fine. It was a fine, simple ballad. But this stands out more. It also gives a bit of that irreverent energy that Iceland brought with Hatari a couple years ago as well, which we always need in this contest. I just realized I said I was going to go in alphabetical order, and I completely forgot Germany is before Italy, so I'm just clearly not thinking here. You know what? Maybe there's a reason why I skipped over Germany. I Don't Feel Hate by Jendrik. Well, this was an interesting choice for them to send. I think Germany has been on the struggle bus with Eurovision for quite some time. They are, I mean, they won in 2010, and yeah, I don't. There have been some strong entries in the last decade, but I haven't been a fan of. But Germany has really, I think, hit the struggle bus with the last several years. But then last year with Violent Thing by Ben Dolich, I was kind of like, this is silly pop, but I'm here for it. Like, it's so groovy and fun to listen to. But then they went in this direction, which is a very kind of pandering ukulele quirk pop. Quirk pop is a genre I just made up, by the way. So I mean by quirky pop. But it's not even that quirky because the instrumental is so overdone in sort of what I would consider to be beige background music for like, hey, it's a new YouTube tutorial. Come and check out my channel. If you've watched YouTube over the last decade, you know that ukulele music I'm talking about. It was in the background of almost every single big YouTuber's videos at one point. And that's basically the backbone of this song. He's taking that and he's running with it. It's giving me a little bit of the "What Does the Fox Say" viral sensation from several years ago, back in like 2012 or whatever. I think it was a Norwegian singer who got really huge for that silly, silly song, kind of made for kids. This is a song where you really don't know who the audience is for because, at the one hand, it sonically sounds like it's made for kids. And it does have like a love yourself, screw the haters, which can be a kid friendly message. But at the same time, you know, the imagery of sticking the middle finger up and the irreverent, quirky cheekiness of it, it's a little bit more in the teenage young adult genre. So it's like, is this really that kid friendly? You know, I mean, I'm sure for Eurovision especially, it's not really something you'd see at Junior Eurovision that they would approve. But it does come across as something you would see performed for Junior Eurovision, just maybe cleaning up the lyrics a little bit with less of the middle finger stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, the visual is interesting because the first time you watch it, it's hilarious, but you don't need to see it again. And you just are like, I'm done. I saw this. I'm fine. I don't need it to see it again. I also don't need to listen to it again. It has this really triumphant, horn section that I think is coming off way too loud, and it really shocks me every time it comes on. I don't feel hate. Like, okay, you're going for the jump scare factor. It's a song that, like, it's memorable for all the wrong reasons. I really think it's kind of the biggest joke song of the contest this year. There always is one. I don't really know if Jendrik really is taking this contest seriously or if he really believes this song is meant to be taken seriously. He probably doesn't. But there's just so much around it that it's just leaving much to be desired. People really hated Alexander Rybak for several years ago when he did That's How You Write a Song for Norway. People thought the same kind of critique. This is too juvenile. This is too pandering. It's like, what? There's no soul to this. I actually did enjoy it though. It was very family friendly, and I thought, what the heck? It's fun to dance to, and it shows off his violin, and it's still got some good wholehearted fun to it. It is Eurovision. Like, come on, not everything's going to be deep and really adult kind of themed. But at the same time, I Don't Feel Hate, I think, is worse than this song because it's trying to be something a little edgier and it's just falling on its face. I feel like That's How You Write a Song was absolutely not trying to be edgy. There was a full self-awareness of what he was trying to do. I felt like that was an owned Kids Bop moment, and it was catchy. It was very memorable and fun and catchy, and it didn't have that abrasive horn section coming at you, which just is a little too much, especially in the morning. This is not a song you want to listen. Maybe it'll get you amped up in the morning. I don't know. Yeah, you can wiggle your middle finger at me and it won't never wiggle back to you. I mean, again, he's trying to keep his karma clean. Good for him. Good for him. It's not a bad message to give off, but sorry, there's a bit of light coming through here. Yeah, not for me. It's a pass. I do not see this going on to the left side of the scoreboard. I don't even see it cracking, above the bottom 10 or even the bottom 5. I think that this song is definitely going to flop, and I feel like it's asking to. Alrighty, so moving on, we have Spain. Voy a quedarme by Blas Canto. He is returning from last year. He's actually one of the only artists from the Big Five. There's two who are sending returning artists. The other countries I mentioned are new from last year. He sent a song called Universo last year, which was actually a sleeper hit for me. I actually really enjoyed listening to it. And Voy a quedarme is going more in that, power ballad acoustic moment. I believe it's translating roughly into I'll Stay in English. He actually put out an English version just recently. I'll just stay the night so I can hear your voice again. Give me a memory to hold on to now and then. I'll just stay a little more, the morning slipping in, and I have missed your touch, drawing circles on my skin, looking to the sky to only realize the most precious thing I wanted here was lying right before my eyes. I made a promise to hold you forever by the hand, and that I won't ever let go, so don't worry, here I stand. To remind you, like the first time, I will always love you more than yesterday, and no matter what, I'll stay. Unconditional support for the partner, romantic or platonic, that he is singing about. I think this is giving Gion's Tears a run for his money a little bit, though it's not nearly on the level. We've got some gorgeous falsetto vocals coming through. I think it's towards the bridge where he really explodes with that, and the melody just erupts in such a beautiful emotional way, which I think is the highlight for the song. It's a sweet melody. It's something that, it tugs on the heartstrings, but it doesn't leave, I think, a really, really powerful, indelible mark on you the same way that Gion's Tears songs do. I feel as though it's just a little, it still sounds just a teeny bit too on the surface, because just so much depth to the way that Gion's Tears songs are composed. There's an underneath that, there's an undergrowth to them that's so mournful and dark. And this song is just very face value. But I don't have any issue with it. I think it's a safe entry to get you in the middle of the pack. I don't really see a lot of buzz around it, but I do think people will rally around him as, like, just a sweet guy. He seems like it. I don't know. I think his voice is definitely one of my more preferred male vocals. I think, compared to like North Macedonia's Here I Stand, I actually prefer this slightly more laid back approach to yet something very eruptive, for a power ballad, with, instead of going the more Broadway theatrical approach, with the over enunciation and like the over projection that we get from Vassal with the North Macedonian entry. So, because these two entries I think are very comparable in terms of style and sound, but I think this one is the stronger, and I'd like to see it place above Vassal, and I think it will. Sorry, he's a great guy, but I prefer this one. And then lastly, we have the United Kingdom. Before I talk about the Netherlands, of course. Okay, controversial alert. Put your goggles on, get prepared. I'm going to spill some tea. If you're familiar with me and my taste, this might not be so surprising. James Newman is returning for the United Kingdom, as he came in last year with My Last Breath. It was this country pop moment. I was ambivalent, but I was also more slightly on the discard, perspective. I wasn't really a fan. I'm one of the very few people who really, really rooted for Michael Rice and with Bigger Than Us. When it came in bottom last in 2019, I just really felt like something was very wrong with this whole contest. And the whole thing about, political voting with the countries and the, ways that countries are snubbed. It's hard to create an argument for there not being any political voting whatsoever in certain circumstances. In others, you could say that it's not such a good argument, that it is not so political. It really depends. It's, I think, a bit of both. There is political voting that goes in. The United Kingdom has been, going through Brexit. And so in the last several years, I think Europe has not been looking so favorably towards them. But the Eurovision fandom has really hated almost every entry the UK has sent for like the last 5 years at least. Granted, the UK has not had, any sort of real success since, I don't know, at least the mid 2000s. But at that point, we're really going back to the 90s here. You think Germany has been struggling. I mean, the UK has just been really, really, really struggling. And people want, the BBC to take it a little more seriously. People want the artist selection to be stronger. And I think I'm seeing still, though I think it's died down a little bit, people really think that James Newman is the ticket. People are so... Last year, I somewhat bought it because I was like, hey, this is different, and like, whatever, I'll deal with it. He's got a nice enough voice. He's not really doing anything that offensive that I'm like, whatever, I can't stand this. But when they chose to bring him back and then they gave him this song, it all fell apart for me. And I really realized how much I just am not a fan of this singer. Now, I'm sure he's a great guy. I have nothing against him. I'm acting like I have some personal thing against him. It's just, I take it personally because I still feel like Michael Rice was just so sort of like collectively, no one, especially in the UK, wanted him to succeed. They didn't care if he succeeded. Now, the staging really did let him down. I'll give him that. The staging really did let him down. But come on, the vocals were so strong. The song, if Sweden had sent it, would have done top 5, top 3. It made no sense. It seemed so just personally jaded against the, outdated style of singing that Michael Rice was using. I mean, it was very playbook, pop anthem. But that's what Eurovision always is. I mean, Sweden has been pulling from that playbook every single year, and yet look where they place. And honestly, they're very overrated. A lot of the time, Sweden doesn't deserve to be that high. But yeah, it's so upsetting because I mean, Sue Rhee in 2018 also deserved so much, and yet she still came in almost bottom, even after having someone barge onto the stage and nearly. I mean, she could have been killed on stage. I mean, the UK would have still come in last. It's really kind of sad. And then here we have James Newman, this guy coming on with absolutely no swag whatsoever. The worst styling I have ever seen for a male performer. And granted, the bar is pretty low for male performers with styling. His styling is absolutely atrocious. He comes on and, just stands there in the music video, does the most half-assed dance moves you could ever imagine to a song that is not at all suited to his style of singing. And on top of that, the entire song is very bland, very generic, very watered down, big band sounding pop from several years ago. Very, very not my thing. Because I need music that has a little bit more flavor to the rhythm of it. This song is very stale, in my opinion, rhythmically. Yeah, it's got the horns are the most interesting part of it. I'll give it that. But there's something about the way the horns are produced, at least in the studio cut, that really hollows them out. And the banality to the entire song, the lyrical content is just by the numbers. Like I said, I mean, Bigger Than Us was by the numbers too, but it frustrates me that so many people are flocking around this song. They were like, I think the UK is going to come into the top 10 this year, top 15. This is going to be the best placement for the UK they've ever seen. And I'm like, well, you're probably right. But it's not deservedly so. I think that this is one of the worst entries the UK has sent in recent years. So very contrary to popular opinion. Now, again, it's a bit of a taste thing. I'm not really into bro pop. This is definitely giving sort of Macklemore meets Bruno Mars meets Ed Sheeran vibes. You couldn't combine more cringy male pop artists into one sentence than I just did. Very white, very pale, very boring, very flavorless. I just don't get it. He just does not have the stage presence. He does not have the dance moves. He does not have the aesthetic for a song like this. Not to mention, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of, like I said, just a guy with girls like on bikinis dancing by cars. It's just come on, like it's just very male gazy to me. I just James Newman comes across as just like too much of a dude to me. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go there, and I don't. It is what it is. If you watched my ranking video where I ranked them all, I was very close to giving it the bottom spot. I did have to give it a few points above a couple entries just because if you're looking for that kind of pop music, it's doing the job. I mean, is there really anything like if you're looking for that niche that's like it's failing at? There are a few songs that I think, are banal but actually really bungle the entire production of the song and make it sound atrocious to a degree that, I could never tolerate it. But then this song, I mean, I could drop this to the bottom spot. I really could. Definitely not a fan, just not here for it at all. I feel like such a Scrooge, but I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm the only person who feels that way, but giving him a throwaway Calvin Harris trumpet synth song is not gonna do it. It's not gonna do it for me. So not here for it. So I'm not gonna harp on it too much more. But let's talk about the Netherlands. Talking about a song that I've seen a lot of people place in the bottom. Now, keep in mind that the host country is always at a bit of a disadvantage. I think people in general feel as though, the country's already won, so we're not going to want to necessarily give it to the same country. It has happened in the past, but not in a long time, that a country has won back to back. So that's always going to be working against them. Jiangu McCroy is returning from last year, and unfortunately, I really do think he had a much stronger entry to come with us last year. I mean, Grow was a real moment. He had exquisite vocals, in my opinion, that were showcased so brilliantly on that track, with such emotion and heart-wrenching relatability coming through. But with the track we get this year, we're getting a slice of Suriname. So we're getting a different taste of culture, which I think is always really, really interesting, especially considering, Eurovision, it tends to be only white culture that tends to be presented. But we have been seeing, with Eden Aline, and we've been seeing with some other artists of color, they've been channeling, different homeland, ancestral homeland music. And so Surinamese is spoken and sung in the chorus of the song. In the song, it's called Birth of a New Age, finding empowerment in your ancestral roots and in your homeland, connecting the past to the present. For those who are not familiar, Suriname, which is in South America, was a colony of the Netherlands for quite a while. And there's a lot of Dutch Surinamese people, immigrants, people in both countries who have nationalities or dual nationalities. And it is where Jiangu was born. The language of Sranan is one of the main English-based Creole languages used by the slaves in Suriname to communicate. And so this is a really sort of unique language that's being presented to the world stage. Unfortunately, in the main chorus, "No one mani broko me, you cannot break me," has been, I've seen by a lot of people, memeified and gifified to be about broccoli, and people sort of pantomiming it a little bit. Now, I will say that the live performance was definitely not as strong as the studio cut. We get this very presented package. It's very editorial. It's really showcasing different ceremonial costumes. I believe he has some of his actual family members in the music video with him. So we have such a lineage we have a real feeling of heritage, and it's really proud. This visual is very proud of itself, and I really enjoy visuals like this. I really, really, really enjoy when someone can just showing and imbuing so much of their own story and culture and who they are is coming across so authentically. And in speaking of colonialism with the Dutch and with Europe, it's a very poignant message to make. Dutch and Suriname are completely okay now, but there's this history that cannot be forgotten. And you need to, look at it through the lens of today and sort of underlying issues that we still have with race and culture. And it's important for the Western world to be exposed to, because the history is really, really troubling and dark, with the Dutch and these countries. So, well, with all of the colonizers and the countries in the southern hemisphere and other areas. So it's a really important celebratory song with the mirror held up to the audience. But I think it reflects that, at least in the Dutch, community, there's not so much of a pride to this entry, in that they find it a little. I see people sort of minstrelifying it a little bit, just in the way that everyone is sort of viewing it as a Beyonce knockoff. They're talking about the Lion King. They're talking about African sounding languages. They're anglicizing it to be humorous. It's just it's made to be sort of like a joke in some ways. And that's really, really, really unfortunate. I'm not seeing a ton of people doing that. It's more me hearing people say that others have done that. So I'm sort of reading into that. But I'm not surprised. I could see how this song wouldn't be very popular in the Netherlands. I don't think it's a song that the Netherlands would have popular vote-wise chosen, but I'm glad that it was, because sometimes the popular vote is not always the right meter stick, I think, for the quality that some of these countries can bring. Skin as rich as a starlit night, your rhythm is rebellion. There are so many, I would say traditional sort of African sounding hymn aspects to this song. So I know that the Pan-Africanism is coming through, which understandably people are comparing to a lot of gospel music, the Lion King. I get it. It's somewhat surface level for that, but at the same time, it's, if you choose to dive into it, there is so much more rich culture to discover, and it is not like just any other African culture. Surinamese culture is its own distinct thing with African elements, because it's a mixture of all of these different indigenous cultures, and it's a really fascinating story. They tried to drain you of your faith, but you are the rage that melts the chains. It's just a really uplifting melody. sonically, I think it's very well composed. I like the call and response with the gospel choir coming in, gospel sounding choir, and it's got the elements to get you on your feet. I think it's a really uplifting song, and I don't see it doing top 15, but I don't want to see it come in the bottom. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about this song's placement. It's also got going on for, unfortunately, the host factor country, which is meaning no one's going to want to vote for it. Unfortunately, I could really see this one coming in bottom place, in 25th place, which 26th place. They're 26th in the final or 25. So I don't want to see this come in 26th place. Please, please, please. I would hate to see this do worse than the UK, but that's Europe for you. All right, well, those are my thoughts. Out of these 6 songs, my favorite is probably going to be Italy's, which is a tricky one, because I will say, out of all of these songs, I'm not absolutely crazy about any of them. But I think Italy has just the most intrigue for me. Yeah, I mean, I would argue, I think the Netherlands too. I mean, the Netherlands and France, they're bringing a certain level of quality. Spain as well. But Germany and UK, see ya, burn it, don't need it, goodbye. So those are my thoughts. I think if I'd have to rank them, yeah, I mean, Germany, UK would be at the bottom. Then I would put maybe Spain, then the Netherlands, then France, then, then Italy at the top. What are your thoughts on the big 5 plus the host? What would your rankings be? Like I said, if you're interested in seeing my semifinal 1 songs and semifinal 2 songs, the songs that'll be competing in those contests coming up in a few weeks on those dates, I have linked them in the description, as well as my ranking of all 39 songs. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you with my next Eurovision video, which will be when the contest is premiering. I'll do I'm not sure how I'm going to cover the actual contest this year. In 2019, I made 3 separate videos for the 2 semifinals and the final after they aired. We'll see how I do it this year, if I'm going to go that full in or not. Yeah, I'm ready to talk about some other stuff on this channel. So I hope you all enjoyed. Please give this video a like if you did. I will see you all in my next one. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.